everyone. My name is Chafee. I'm an LMHC, and I am your teen therapy expert. I wanted to hop on today and just talk a little bit about the push behind connection and curiosity. When you're raising a teenager, teens have a natural inclination to pull away. We don't understand, we don't get it. We're not teenagers, right? They're in these, new situations, totally fine. I will tell you though, in my practice, oftentimes the teens that I get, yes, they may be going through it. They might have depression, they might have anxiety, they might have other things that they're trying to like navigate. But at the end of the day, the kids that are more resilient, the kids that have more drive, the kids that feel more motivated are the kids that have connection with their caregivers. So when I'm doing some parent coaching, when I'm talking with a kid around, what does stuff look like at home? What do your family situations look like? I'm literally looking for how do they connect? Why do they connect? What situations do they connect? How does that connection go? And what does that connection lead to? We have this propensity when we're in interactions with our kids, with our teens, to just like be correction, to kind of jump into everything and to like correct things and to, automatically respond and react to what they're saying. But those things we have to acknowledge often get in the way of true connection that we're trying to have. Your teen or your teen client isn't going to want to talk to you if all you're going to do is correct them. They're not going to want to talk to you if the things that they're saying are going to be dismissed or belittled or even inadvertently denied. And it happens to all of us, right? We are not perfect humans. It happens. We just need to be prepared for it. So the things that I talk about with my coaching, like, families, coaching clients, etc., are really looking for ways to connect. And I'm not saying like you have to go out and do this big grandiose gesture of like, let's do a vacation, let's like shut off our phones, let's whatever, right? I'm looking for little tiny things throughout the day that offer connection, consistency, support, and presence. So even if that for you, if you analyze your life and you're like, how do I do this with my teen? How do I do this with my client? One thing is to really pick out a spot in the day where you can be consistent. And for some people, that might be in the morning to be like, good morning. Like, how are you feeling today? How did you sleep? Let's have breakfast together. And it's not so much you're offering to say like, hey, let's do this. It's you're already doing it. So you're already making the meal, you're making the pancakes, you're making whatever, and you are inviting them to be part of that. Connection, presence, stability, support. When they're talking with you about something, and granted, like teens have a different circadian rhythm. So like granted, they are likely going to be the people that are going to want to talk your ear off at like 10 o'clock at night. That may be the time that you commit once or twice a week to just like having those deep conversations and really being present for them. They will surprise you. Teens want connection with the people that are around them. They want connection with the people that are raising them, whether it's a grandparent or an aunt or uncle or, even like a friend's parent, right? Those are all part of the community that teen is a part of. So we want to make sure that they have safe connection because at the end of the day, if your kid can talk to you about literally anything, that means safety. Because that obviously is going to translate to them talking to you about risk decisions and how am I going to navigate this and what is going on for me in my life. So connection equals safety, more than expectations, more than boundaries, like all of those things can be present. But if the teen doesn't know how to use them or doesn't want to use them and isn't engaged in it, it doesn't matter. So the connection that we're offering is also going to create attachment, which is going to create care, which is going to create concern. And with all of that, we're just looking for engagement. We want them to be part of that process. We want them to be part of that connection. When you think about teens, you only have a limited amount of time before they're 18 and can make their own decisions and go off to college and do all of that stuff. So when you have a kid who's like 12, 13, you already have to be kind of laying the groundwork for what is this going to look like when you're a teenager, right? What is it going to look like with our connection, with my support, with my judgment, with my honesty, with my expectations? We want to foster connection over everything else. So if you have a kid that you're struggling with, whether it's a teen in session or a teen as a parent, I want you to really take a step back and look through their lens and see what connection looks like for them and what it means for them. And maybe that's being curious about like, what is connection for them, right? If they have a significant other, if they have friends, asking the curious questions. What is this like for you? What is true connection? What does it look like when you are around people that you really feel connected to, you feel seen by, you feel heard by? And here's the thing, at the beginning of the day, if you ask this beginning of the journey, you are going to get this response of like, I don't freaking know. Why does it matter? I don't care. Why do you care? This is not a big deal. I have to go to school. So-and-so is waiting for me. They're going to push back on the first time you ask a question like that. But again, we have to keep showing up. We have to keep showing them that we care enough to ask, and then we care enough to try to connect. Because if we are not doing that work, if we're like, oh, like you push me off and you don't answer my questions, you're just proving to them by giving up that you're not actually in it for the long journey, that you're not in it for a connection, that you're not in it to be part of them. You're in it for your own needs being met. And I do think as a teen therapy expert and as, someone who's worked in a variety of environments, like we have to be stronger and more resilient in those conversations than our teens are. And part of that is because we are showcasing them. We are role modeling for them how we want them to interact and how we want them to resolve things and how we want them to be in those conflicts and in those conversations, in those relationships. So if we're asking this question and the teen buffs us off and is like, I don't freaking care, like, don't ask me that question. And then we're just like, okay, cool. And we leave. We are showing them that we are okay with giving up, that they have just kind of like won that battle of like, oh, I pushed a little bit and they broke. Every parent, every therapist who works with teens is going to have a misstep. I've absolutely had missteps where I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't have done that. But at the end of the day, if we're talking about those situations and we're bringing them back to them and being like, hey, I'm going to own this. I should have been better about this. I should have been accountable for this. It's going to help them understand and see that you can have accountability in relationships, that you can have apologies, you can have authenticity, that you can honor the things that you wish you had done differently. And these are all part of learning how to connect. So with connection, there comes this curiosity around like, what is all this like for you? And how do you see this? How do you want this? Your kid desperately wants you to know them. They do. Even if they say they don't, even if there's been trauma, even if you haven't been the best parent, even if they've gone through a lot of stuff, they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be validated, they want you to be able to be authentic with them. That is the connection. We want to make sure we are connecting soul to soul and not trauma to trauma. So if you are a parent who is like working through your own stuff, like I applaud you and I think that's great. And at the same time, it's okay to reference that in conversation with your teen. If you are a therapist who has been working with teens, who loves working with teens, who, wants more support around working with teens and doesn't quite know how to like own their own stuff in regards to like what that looks like, I'd love to help you. Please check out all the links below. And additionally, know that you're not alone. The populations that we often get really invested in as therapists are the ones that we've had a lot of experience and lived life in. I know for me, my teen years were like wrought with all different types of like learning experiences. And I'm so grateful that I had those. And at the same time, it's made me a therapist who can be so authentic and genuine in session because like I get it. I get the decision-making process. I get why they did certain things, and I'm not judging. I likely have some of my own stories of things that now would like horrify someone, but we've all made decisions that weren't great as teenagers. And if we can honor that and say like, this is absolutely something that like we did and we learned from, we are better for it. So one quick thing too, is I see a lot of people, that kind of reach out around like their kid not connecting with a therapist or their kid is kind of like not sure they're really invested in it. And I just have to say, like, when you're working with a teen, the thing that I feel is so different, substantially different, potentially, is that you have to really focus on initially first connection. So sure, we all have intake packets, we all have treatment plans, we all have things we need to get through. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a connection with that person, it doesn't matter what's on the paperwork. Okay. So think about that. When you are interacting with a kid, a teen for the first time, what is their experience like with you as a provider? I know for me, I have an intake packet, I have treatment plans, I have all that stuff. But for me, my first two, three, sometimes four sessions exclusively focus on asking questions, engaging. I never break eye contact. I never try to focus on something external. I want them to know me and I want to know them. And I think that that has been a really strong part of engaging with people who maybe like are nervous about therapy or aren't really sure what this is going to be like or if they trust me. Because again, I'm focusing on building the strongest connection I can so that all the other work that can come from that. Again, it doesn't matter what's in the intake packet if they don't trust you, if they don't feel safe with you, if they don't feel hurt by you. So my initial with every single teen I work with is to really focus on how to build the strongest connection I can. And then outside of session, the other part that I do a lot is I interest myself in all of the things that they're going through. So for example, if I have someone who I know is like really into band, plays the saxophone, is like the section leader, does all this stuff. I spend time outside of session learning about their thing. I do the research. I look at the players. I want to understand all the different examples, anything else that could help me build analogies and build metaphors of what they're going through. I take an interest that is already their interest and I build on it so they can understand and have a bridge between an area of interest and the mental health that they may or may not have educationally. Again, the biggest thing I do in therapy, and I think the biggest thing every parent of a teen or every therapist who works with teens can benefit from, is really focusing on what that connection is. The other thing I want to point out is that we all build connections in different ways. And I think that as a therapist, you have to figure out what your strength is in building relationships with teens. And when you're a parent, you have to figure out what your strength is in relation to building a relationship with your kid. And everyone connects in different ways, and knowing how and why you connect the way you do is going to help you establish that really strong bond to allow for curiosity and connection and a stronger relationship. Once again, my name is Charity Chafee. I love talking about teens. I love talking about parenting teens. I love talking about mental health for teens. If any of this interests you or if you have questions, I would love to talk more. I do also interview a lot of people on my podcast around like mental health, teens, anything related, like the teen vibe. And I'd love to have you on the show. I'd love to talk more. Please connect with me. I just want to build the strongest network I can of people who provide excellent services for teens and their families. So hit me up, let me know. I'm signing off.